allowed to keep a guarding dog at home? So you guys are debating right now. Is it inside or outside? Is it in the backyard or in the front yard? Right? Is it inside the house, outside the house? Let's see what the Prophet ﷺ said about having a dog at home. And then let's talk about these different scenarios. There are three hadiths Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala speaking about keeping a dog inside the house. قال hadith number 1684 through hadith 1686. قال وعن أبي طلحة رضي الله عنه أن الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا تدخل الملائكة بيتا فيه كلب ولا صورة. In this hadith, the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم said the angels do not enter a house in which there is a dog or an image, a picture, portrait that is actually hanging or in display. Hadith رواه البخاري and Muslim. The second one, Ibn Umar رضي الله عنهما قال وعد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وعد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم جبريل أن يأتيه. So Jibril promised the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم to come and visit. Jibril promised the Prophet to come and visit. فراث عليه حتى اشتد على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. So he got delayed, didn't show up for a significant time. فاشتد على رسول الله. It became so heavy on the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, like, why is Jibril not coming? There's something wrong. Something is happening. So the Prophet was doubting himself. Did I do anything wrong? Did I miss something with Jibril alayhi salam, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It's a scary thought for the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. قال فخرج. So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he then eventually left the house. When he left the house, لقيه Jibril. Jibril came over to meet the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam on the road. فشكى إليه. So he kind of like complained, like, you promised me. Why didn't you show up? فقال إنا لندخل بيتا فيه كلب ولا صورة. He said to him, قال عليه السلام, we do not enter a house in which there is a dog or a portrait, a picture. Hadith رواه البخاري. In the next hadith, an explanation to that story. How come? Why Jibril didn't show up? قال عن عائشة رضي الله عنها وعد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم جبريل في ساعة أن يأتيها. So Jibril promised the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم to come at a specific hour, specific time. فجاءت تلك الساعة ولم يأتي. That time, that appointment time arrived and Jibril wasn't there. قالت وكان بيده عصا فطرحها من يده. Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم had a stick in his hand, whatever he was doing with it. He kind of like, with an anxiety or maybe an anxious moment, he threw that stick. He threw it away, to put it down on the ground. وقال ويقول ما يخلف الله وعده ولا رسله. He says Allah and His messengers will never be late or not fulfill their promises or appointments. ثم التفت فإذا جرو كلب تحت سريره. Then the Prophet ﷺ, he paid attention to something maybe moved when he threw the stick or whatever, and he found out there's a puppy under his bed. Jaru, which means actually a puppy. So there's a puppy hiding under his bed, the bed of the Prophet ﷺ. You might say, wait a minute, how did it even enter? Which way did it come from? Well, if you read the hadith in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim, there were some reports that the masjid, when the people are not in the masjid, dogs come in and out actually. This is how open the environment used to be back then. And since the Prophet ﷺ's house is attached to the masjid, probably one of those puppies came in and just like found the door open and whatever. He just snuck in and hid under the bed of the Prophet ﷺ. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم متى دخل هذا الكلب? When did this dog? How long has this dog been here? Where is it? How did it come in? فقلت والله ما دريت به. Aisha said, I swear I didn't even pay attention to it. I don't know how it come in. فأمر به فأخرج. So the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, take it out. So when they took him out, فجاءه جبريل. Then Jibril came. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وعدتني فجلست لك ولم تأتني. He says, I've been waiting for you and you promised me. You didn't show up on time. فقال منعني الكلب الذي كان في بيتك. I couldn't come in because of the dog that you had at home. قال إنا لا ندخل بيتا فيه كلب ولا صورة. We do not enter a house that has a dog or there is a picture that is hanging there. حديث رواه مسلم. So these are hadith. The first one Bukhari and Muslim, the second one Bukhari, and the third one Muslim. You can't doubt the authenticity of these hadith. You cannot doubt the source anymore. And if these are the words of the Prophet ﷺ, there is no excuse. There is no excuse. As a matter of fact, there is even addition to that, in which the Prophet ﷺ saying that anyone who owns a dog, except a legitimate cause or reason, such as guarding dog or قال زرع أو حراسة, like guarding or farm dog. قال ينقص من أجره في كل يوم قيراط. Every single day, their reward will be diminishing the amount of a qirat. And the qirat wasn't explained in the words of the Prophet ﷺ, but it was explained in other ahadith. One of the narrations that the Prophet ﷺ described the qirat to be the size of the Mount of Uhud. This is how much reward people miss if they do so. So how do we understand the hadith today, in our time, when the subject of having, of course, a dog as a pet at home, oh God, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry in terms of food and toys and shelters and grooming and hotels and all that stuff. It's multi-million-dollar, if not even billion-dollars, probably maybe industry, Allah musta'an. So how do we explain that? So first of all, in regards to owning a dog to begin with, we spoke about it earlier, and we said you can own a dog if there is a reason for that. So the dog could be for guarding dog. It could be, of course, if you have a farm, you put it on your farm. If it was for safety reason, obviously. And then the ulama today, they extend those reasons to something contemporary, such as sight dog, hearing dog, assistant dog, and so forth. And even now they're expanding now to relief dogs, specifically for people who are under stress or trauma, where they bring them pets to kind of play with them, or at least to relieve some of the stress in that companionship that they have with them. So if there's a reason for it, it's okay. You can right now have that dog, you own that dog. However, the question is, where do we keep that dog? Can you buy a Chihuahua as a guardian dog, Jama'ah? All right? Come on. If you're going to buy a guardian dog, you're going to have to bring something that is really serious. But you fool yourself, you're going to say, well, that's my guardian dog, right? Chihuahua. No, it's not a guardian dog for sure. So therefore, we need to be reasonable. But the argument right now is, if you are allowed to keep a guardian dog, where do you put it? Some might say, well, if I'm going to put it outside, what's the point? I mean, I need safety inside the house. If that's a legitimate reason, and you would say that, you know what? Yes, it's a legitimate reason. I can't keep it outside. I need to keep it inside because I'm afraid of the burglary actually to go while I'm inside the house. If you had to do that, it doesn't mean that you sleep with your own bed, like what people do these days. Or licking your face and whatever, all these things and so on. You don't have to do all these things. So you keep it where you had to keep it. So it doesn't have to go throughout all the entire house and so on. But definitely, better for you to keep it outside if you own a house, to keep it in the backyard, for example. So is it allowed to be inside the house? From every now and then, it's okay to keep it inside the house, to bring it into the house, not to play with it as much as just simply to kind of get it familiar with the space. And also, if you need to keep it there for feeding it, or maybe the weather, sometimes when the weather gets really nasty, whether it becomes extremely hot or extremely cold, then put it in the garage, if you have a garage, for example. Bring the dog house and put it in the garage. Keep it warm over there, or safe, a little bit. But you don't have to bring it inside the actual house itself. And again, if you had to, then not all the rooms should be roaming all over the place. Now, what about if I keep this house inside? Does that mean that I'm going to also lose my reward for this? That's when the ulama, they have difference of opinion. Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he follows the opinion that you still lose your reward, even though it's a legitimate reason to keep that dog with you, because it's not supposed to be inside the house. Imam al-Khattabi rahimahullah ta'ala says, no, there's an exception for this. If you're allowed to keep a dog, then that's an exception over here. Okay, what about entering the house? If I have this dog inside my house, that doesn't mean that the angels are not going to enter my house. Well, I need the angels to be in there, right? So that's what the ulama, they say, look, there are two types of angels. There are the angels who are responsible to protect you, al-hafadha. These angels won't leave you. They will stay around, they will stay with you. But the hadith here speaks about the other category of angels, the angels of rahmah and mercy and sakina and tranquility. Those are the ones that descend upon you to give you that sense of relief and be present around your ibadah and ta'ah and so on. Those are the ones that were not going to be present. They say, you know what, we can't come in. We'll wait for you until you get rid of that thing. So again, the angels that needs to be around you to protect you and take note of what you do and so on, those will stay there. But it's the other category of angels that you're probably going to lose their companionship if you have actually a dog inside the house. So again, these are the statement of the Prophet ﷺ. There is no denying of the authenticity of it, obviously. And people, if they make their choices and take risk of keeping these animals in their house, at their own risk. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among those who listen to the speech and follow the best of it. Ya Rabbil Alameen.